subscribe for more videos like this. Looks like people liked my Lion King comics video. I think that's because nobody else has done a video about that. It was simply too obscure. If I did a video about a DC or Marvel comic, I don't think it would have gotten any views because there are lots of videos about them. I will eventually make videos about Marvel or DC stuff, but for now let's continue focusing on comics of non-comic franchises because they are relatively obscure and deserve more love and attention. So today I will talk about God of War comics. I know it is a video game franchise and most people don't care about it in relatively obscure media like comics, but all the games that I have and will talk about are already covered to death. And also that's just the type of person I am. I like obscure stuff and I don't like leaving things in the shadows. So yeah, let's start. The first comic I will talk about is a 6-issued miniseries that happens in the classic God of War era. Most of it happens in flashbacks, in the days that Kratos' wife and daughter were alive, and those are the parts that I will focus on in this video. This comic is criticized for looking ugly, but I say this ugliness does a great job with setting the dark tone. It is an ugly world and it makes sure you will feel it. This comic is even darker than the classic game, so if you don't think you can take it, just skip to the next section. The timestamps are down there. From the beginning of the comic, we see one of the darkest God of War moments, where Kratos lives in does not welcome weakness. Weakness is hated so much that if a baby is born weak, he or she will be thrown off a cliff. Oh, that is not dark enough? Okay, what if I say they force kids to do this horrifying act? Look at that line. They will kill multiple babies per month. They basically want to turn their soldiers into heartless murder machines. So in order to do that, they force the kids that are strong enough to be worthy of being alive to kill the weak babies. They are forced to do it again and again until they won't feel bad about it anymore. And somehow they did not expect that at least one of these kids would grow up to become a psychopath and burn down their entire world. The amount of mental torture Kratos went through, no wonder he was a monster for a long while. But they did succeed in making Kratos a great warrior. Kratos, even as a teenager, could easily defeat adults. Just like anyone his age, he was forced to live in the wild for a year without anything to become a man. After that, Kratos became so good at fighting that he caught the attention of his superiors. We also see that at first Kratos wasn't the type of person to demand attention for himself, as he tells a woman to stop kneeling before him. This woman is named Lysandra, who would marry Kratos. Or maybe Kratos does like the attention and he just told Lysandra to stand up because he fell in love at first sight. Kratos for once in his life felt happy. Being around her made him feel complete. And then we immediately see the birth of their daughter, Calliope. And she looks weak and ugly because of a plague that had infected many babies, which means she will be thrown off the cliff. But Kratos will have none of that. He hears about Ambrosia of Asclepius, the god of healing. It is said that it can cure any illness. He needs to find a healer who knows where the cure is. But the law is the law and they are commanded to kill Calliope. Since using feelings won't work on these monsters, Kratos and Lysandra use logic on them. They tell them that by finding this cure, no one will die to illness anymore. No more baby killing, and as a result their armies will grow in number. They agree, but Kratos will have just a few days to do it. And if he fails to come back in time, Calliope will be killed. Then we see a few gods betting. Ares, Hades, Poseidon, Helios, Hermes, and Artemis. Each of them will choose a champion, and the god whose champion will survive a battle to death will win the bet. Ares has chosen Kratos, and Hades has chosen Alric. But for the moment, the other 4 gods refuse to say who their champion is, because they don't trust Ares and fear that he might kill their champion by cheating. We realize that Ares had his eyes on Kratos a long time before Kratos made a pact with him. And who is Alric, you must ask? He is the barbarian king boss fight from God of War 2. The same person that almost killed Kratos in the past and forced him to serve Ares. Their fates were twisted to each other long before we knew. But they won't agree to become a pawn in the gods' game willingly. So the cruel gods used messed up ways. Calliope is sick because Ares has cursed her. And also at the time Alric is just a prince and Hades has cursed his father to become ill, and now Alric also seeks that magic cure to save his father. Kratos finds the healer. The healer gives Kratos Apollo's flame, which seemingly will work as a compass and help Kratos find the cure. On his journey, Kratos will fight a phoenix. It was a hard fight, but his love for his wife and daughter helps him win the battle. Then one of his captains named Nikos shows up alongside his army. The king commanded them to find Kratos and go with him so that he makes sure the cure will be used for the good of all Sparta and not just a single infant. Kratos agrees. We see Alric start his journey as well, and we also see Poseidon's champion, Herodias of Thera, whose entire island is infected with a plague. Can one god use a method other than an illness? Herodias and Kratos and their armies will fight each other. The Spartans destroy their enemy, and their war will end with a Kratos and Herodias 1v1. And I love how savage Kratos is here. Herodias tells Kratos that his loved ones will die because of him. Kratos says then join them as he attacks him. Herodias counterattacks and Kratos falls on the ground. He calls Kratos selfish because he only seeks to save one person while he aims to save many more. He tells Kratos that he gains power from the love of his people. That's when Kratos stabs him in the head and says, then you have failed them. The Spartans win, but their captain is injured, so Kratos becomes the temporary captain. They take the ship of their enemy. Poseidon loses the bet, and in a rage he destroys the ship with many waves and takes them away with a whirlpool. In the water, a giant snake attacks them and Kratos stabs it in the eye. It gasps for air, which means it is not a sea monster, which means there must be a land down there. So they swim deep into the ocean and reach a cavern. Nikos tells Kratos to lead them with wisdom. They continue their journey on foot, but after a while they become tired. Kratos wants to continue, but Nikos tells him that a good leader puts the need of his men before his own. So he agrees to sit down and rest a little bit. We get introduced to Artemis' champion, Hostia, leader of a women-only army. Their tribe is also infected with a plague, so they will fight the Spartans to get the cure. So they start a war against Kratos. We also see Danaus, champion of Hermes. Their animals are dying because of the plague, so they must also find a cure to avoid starvation. Danaus and his army gets destroyed by the barbarian army. Meanwhile, the Spartans destroy Hoslia's army. At the end, she tries to trick Kratos by seducing him, but it does not work and Kratos kills her. Then they reach a desert, and now Hades sends a few big fireballs at them and kills a few of them, including Nikos. Kratos wants to continue, but he remembers the wise words of Captain Nikos, so he tells the rest that they will continue at night. They will eventually reach a tree called the Tree of Life and find a cure. And that's when Helios's champion shows up. He has fire powers and is fast, which makes the battle hard for Kratos. But when they both fall into water, Kratos gets the upper hand and kills him. Now they want to go back to Sparta, but they should fight the barbarians before that. This battle is the most bloody. With the decapitated head of Danaus, Alric can now control animals. So while Kratos and his army is busy, Alric will run away with the cure. Now even the hands of Hades attack the Spartan soldiers, and this is where Kratos stops being a good leader and only acts to save his daughter. He saves himself and goes to the sky to face Alric, while his army die to the hands of Hades. A little bit of the cure spills on Kratos and Alric, which helps both of them survive fatal injuries. But at the end, Kratos gets the head of Danaus, and using it he defeats Alric and flies back to Sparta. But he is late and Calliope is being thrown off the cliff. Kratos catches her in the air and saves her. The king still wants to kill Calliope because Kratos is too late, but again they use logic to convince him. Lysandra tells the king that Kratos came back with the cure as promised, and in order to prove that it can save a life, they will give a sip of it to Calliope, and if it cures her, then she will be saved and the king can have the cure. But if it doesn't work, then they can kill Calliope. The king agrees. The cure works and Calliope is saved. The king gets the cure and Kratos becomes a captain as a reward. Alric is dead, but Hades revived him, so that one day he would kill Kratos. Alric has failed his mission and now his father is dead. So he becomes the new barbarian king, and he swears to make Kratos pay for it. And the rest is history. So yeah, this guy got revived twice. These were all the flashback story. But in its present time story, which happens between the story of God of War 1 and 2, Kratos will go back to the Tree of Life to destroy it and prevent the revival of Ares by doing it. On the way, he will also fight some undead soldiers who are the same soldiers that he left to die while saving his daughter. Now a digital prequel comic to God of War Ascension. The story of this one is not about Kratos, and as a result I don't care about it. The story is fine, but I just don't find anything special about it. But if you are really curious about it, then I guess you can read it for yourself. Now a God of War comic called The Fallen God. It shows events between the Greek era and the Norse era, but it does not try to connect the two eras together. It is mostly a filler episode. But whatever, let's get into it. Kratos is trying to get rid of the blades, but whenever he sleeps or gets knocked out, the blades will be next to him when he wakes up. So he sails to somewhere far, far away and reaches Egypt. Yes, Norse is actually the third mythology that Kratos enters in, and he had gone to Egypt before starting a new family. At first people run away from him. When Kratos realizes how the blades work, he refuses to sleep, which leads him into madness, and some stuff happens that we don't know if it's real or not. In his dream, Kratos sees Athena, and during this comic, she, alongside many more, talk about destiny to him, and Kratos wants none of that. He enters the city for the second time, and this time people beg him to kill a monster. Kratos reluctantly agrees. He succeeds, but then a bigger monster shows up. This time Kratos gets knocked out, but then he wakes up with the blades beside him, and he uses it to slay the big monster. Now this one is a prequel to God of War 4. I still haven't covered the modern God of War games yet, but I am sure you are already familiar with them. So let's get into it. This is in the time that Faye, Kratos' second wife, was still alive. Each day Kratos goes into the woods to learn to control his anger. How does he do that? He will wait until wolves show up and they attack him, but he will refuse to fight back. But once a bunch of trolls attack him, and this time he loses to his anger. Atreus, Kratos' son, hears about it from Faye and is impressed that his father killed the trolls with his bare hands. But Kratos tells him that he may have defeated his enemies, but he lost the battle against himself, the one that mattered. Later, Kratos sees a bear that is attacking a man. Kratos tries to stop the bear without killing it, but he fails and kills the bear in a rage. Later, when Faye is not home, a few men come to their home. They talk in a language that Kratos doesn't understand, but Atreus tells him that one of them says he killed his brother. They turn into bears and start attacking them. Kratos kills them, but their leader runs away. Kratos wants to know more about these beast men, so Atreus takes him to a seer. She tells Kratos that these beast men are called the Berserkers, and they can turn into animals because of a totem that feels their rage. Kratos asks her where this totem is. She says she can perform a ritual, but it will take time, and later Kratos must pay a price for it. He agrees. At sunrise, she finds out where the Berserkers are. She agrees to take care of Atreus while Kratos is gone, but before that she tells him that he should face them with wisdom and not with rage, or else he will fail. Kratos reaches the Berserkers. When they are asleep, he tries to destroy the totem, but the Berserkers wake up and turn into bears and attack him. At first, the totem fuels his rage, so he starts killing. But then he controls himself and destroys the totem instead. Now the Berserkers hold no threat, but yet again, Kratos loses control of his anger and kills them all. And he curses himself for it. While he was gone, the leader of the Berserkers found Atreus and the seer and attacked them. Kratos comes back soon enough to save Atreus, but it's too late for the seer. With her dying breath, she tells Kratos that the price he had to pay was to see to her remains. And she also tells Kratos that there is an enemy for him that is left to conquer, and that enemy is himself. So yeah, those were the God of War comics. And again, I have to say reading them was an enjoyable experience. If I wanted to rank them, I would put The Rise of the Warrior at number 4 because I just simply didn't care about it. Then I would put Fallen God at number 3 because instead of connecting the two eras of God of War, it just told a filler story. Then I would put the 2018 comic at number 2 because it told an interesting enough story. And finally I would put the 2010 comic at number 1 because it told a good story and also expanded on the lore a little bit. I liked that it gave more backstory to the Barbarian King. And I like that we realized Hades was kinda responsible for the entirety of the God of War franchise by reviving the Barbarian King. It is also the biggest and most ambitious one. I would like to see this comic become a video game. I enjoyed the dark vibe of it, and it was good to see how far Kratos will go to save his family. He might have been a horrible person for a long while, but he had never been a bad father, neither to Calliope nor to Atreus. With that being said, we reached the end of this video. Next time I will talk about obscured God of War games. You think that I have already talked about them considering my God of War Betrayal and Beat of War videos, but actually there are a few games that are even more obscure than them. So if you are interested in them or the known God of War games that I will talk about after them, or you want retrospectives on other game or cartoon franchises like this, subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss my next video. I have been Bashir from Retro Cafe and I thank all of you for watching this video.